Hey, it's Terminals. That's incredible. We were just talking about how Terminals must have been dead because he didn't show up last night.
Jesus.
It was mostly a joke. um,
Terminals will tell you that he wishes he was dead. So,
yeah, I was dead. So, two of them that I played were Incognity, which, if I remember correctly, was like a it was, if you've ever played like the Starflight games or anything where you have a starship that you fly around and then you land on planets with a rover. It was basically just the rover bits of that.
okay.
So you like have this thing that you pilot around and collect minerals, and then you go back to base and you turn in the minerals and upgrade your rover to do more stuff or be stronger.
Oh yeah, I think I saw you post about that.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't a hack of a game. It was just a completely
Yeah,
like
it was a
okay.
full new game.
That's cool though.
It wasn't great, but it was cool. Uh, and then the other one that I played was Sure Instinct, which is like a marble maze slash irritating stick sort of thing. A little bit of like Chips Challenge, but
Hmm.
in like with free like marble rolling physics. So you're like bouncing your marble around trying to go over pressure plates and solve puzzles and collect gems.
Ooh. Did you post about that one? I don't remember that one.
No, I never got around to playing enough of it to like get a bunch of clips. I was thinking about like doing those as full games like in my thread, but a
Yeah.
lot of them and a lot of just like ROM hacks that I played, they just weren't good enough to, at
Yeah.
least for me, to sit through and finish them. Only Blob Quest, but that was only because it only takes 20 minutes. And Black Baron MD, which I thought was really cool, but it's not good, obviously.
I would like to get a thread going that's just a good like repository of like, you know, one man shit, dojins,
Yeah,
hacks, fucking RPG Maker shit. Like, I've been really getting into that kind of stuff lately.
I
So,
mean, you can always just make a thread for
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Doesn't have to be a mega thread. It can just be like, here's the thread where I
sure.
post all this kind of shit. I mean, that's basically what my thread's for, except I also include everything. So, or everything that I finish. I think that's the cutoff for me. Is I have to like arguably have finished something.
Oh, so every game you put on your ranking, you actually fully beat, right?
Yeah, not like 100% or
Sure.
whatever, but usually like played to completion. I would say. Like some things just don't have an ending really. Like AoE 2 doesn't. There's lots of points where you could arguably say you've beaten it, but I'm not gonna do 100% of all the campaigns or something.
Right. No,
A-
that's cool.
And then like Madcap Mosaic is like a puzzle, uh, kind of like Minesweeper. Like you can't finish Minesweeper, but for the most part, yeah, I get to like the end credits at least, and I usually do anything extra if it's not like too tedious before I commit to writing it up.
Hell yeah.
So, Soldiers, how did you find this one?
I liked it a lot. I mean, it's been like 6 months since I played it, but I remember like, first of all, like it's just, I mean, there's a million good pixel art, games that actually look good,
Yeah,
but it has really good pixel art, and even like the backgrounds and shit, like they have so much character. Like
yeah,
there's a huge sewer dungeon, which it would usually make you roll your eyes, but even that, like the backgrounds have all these like waterfalls and like animated elements. It's just
yeah.
man, like not to.
they do a lot of clever stuff with the details, and
Yeah,
it's also not just good pixel art, it's also really well animated.
yeah, yeah.
And nothing like sticks out as like not fitting in or anything.
It's sumptuous. It's very it definitely feels like a labor of love type game.
And it's obviously just like the proportions and everything. It's clearly inspired by like Metal Slug,
Yeah,
and I think they did a really good job of like being clearly inspired by that, but not like constantly ripping it off.
yeah. I liked how they were willing to just make the dungeons just fuck off huge.
Yeah,
Like kind of reminded me of Crosscode in a way, as far as like just the dungeons are really big,
yeah.
so that like it actually feels like when you finish a dungeon, you're like, God damn, like it feels like a bit of an accomplishment instead of just going down a hallway,
Well, and
for a few screens.
yeah, and it also meant that they had like a lot of the gimmicks and like environmental things really had some room to breathe. Like they were able to build on things.
Yeah,
Uh, when otherwise, if it would be like a smaller dungeon or like a series of smaller things, then it would have felt a little like compressed, or they would have had to cut a lot of stuff.
yeah. I know, like there was the much maligned nerf patch, like which happened like not long after I started playing
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
where they made it a little easier. And I know they since went back and like added an option to supposedly have the pre-patch difficulty, although I heard it's not exactly the same.
It's not. What it is they added a new higher or like max difficulty,
Yeah,
and but it's still easier than the original game's hard difficulty, and it's probably like in certain cases or arguably easier than the original normal. I think
oh wow.
there's just a lot of things that they changed, that I feel like they didn't even really keep very good notes on what they had changed themselves.
Mm,
It I'll talk more about the patch later, but
yeah.
the gist of it is that it was really reactionary, like knee jerk, just
I mean, they were kind of getting review bombed, so it's like I can't even say like I could even blame them, because they were really getting lit up by people saying this game's too hard. So
yeah. I don't know. I have a lot to say about
it's a
that.
tough sell.
Uh, I I think they should have stuck to their convictions, because it was not like terribly balanced. It was just not what people expected from the graphics style, I
Sure,
think.
sure.
And that's because those people are stupid. They never played like the Wonder Boys or whatever.
Yeah, I was playing on Warrior. I think that was hard mode,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I was like near the end of the pyramid when it got patched,
Yeah.
and that shit was hard for sure. Like there were long gaps between checkpoints, and you fuck up on like any of the regular enemies like once, and they'll just eat you up.
Well,
But
that was one of the things that I thought was really cool about the difficulty when it came out, was that it never felt like you could just like autopilot through an area,
sure.
even once you would come back to an area at a higher level or whatever. It always felt
Yeah.
like you had to stay a little on your toes, because the enemies were genuinely able to like chain on you and just chunk your health down, and so
Yeah.
you had to always be ready to like do a little evasion, counter attack, and just always stay aware of what was going on. And now,
Did you beat that?
yeah,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
uh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, did you beat the whole game before it was patched?
Yeah. I beat as an archer the entire game before the patch came in. I rushed it because I heard that they were going to be lowering the difficulty, and that was like one of the things that I thought really made it stand out was the
Mm.
current level of difficulty. So I was like, I hope they don't ruin it, but I really want to see how the end game is before this
Yeah.
happens. And I'm glad I did because they really did hit the difficulty hard.
Yeah.
It's still not an easy game. I'll say
I was
that.
gonna say,
It's
like,
not trivial.
I was playing through the majority of it after the patch, and I still died a fair few times, especially on bosses.
Yeah.
Like, you had to learn those. So, I don't know. I wasn't too upset about the patch, but I get it, especially if you've already played through it. It's like,
Well, and it also has a little bit of an inverse difficulty curve because of the way the upgrade system works. And, enemies and environments get a little, there's more tricks, but you also get more stuff to deal with those tricks. So it's not as bad later on as I feel like the early game when you're pretty limited in your moveset and stuff. Like the high level of difficulty can feel pretty frustrating.
yeah, there's not a really good way to dodge or, to avoid attacks early
Yeah.
on, especially.
Did you play through the game a second time with a different character, or did you?
I didn't. I just played through it as the warrior,
Okay.
the melee guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And
think
yeah,
the
I found
scout-
myself like, yeah, I found myself rarely using blocks,
Mhm.
rarely even using the dodge roll. Like, I found that like, the best way to stay offensive is just jump all the time.
Yeah.
Jump over attacks, keep attacking. So, that's a little not as intended, but it worked for me.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can definitely. Like, I've got this clip here of me fighting Dark Lance. This is post-patch with the scout, and you can see like just using the blocks, like timed blocks. I'm just like completely clowning on that boss, which is a really tough start.
Yeah,
Early
that's cool.
boss. And it feels really good, but it's definitely easier than it was originally.
Right.
The other characters I also played not through the entire game with them. I got most of the way through the game as the mage. I can't remember what they're called. I think just like caster or something. Which is really interesting because its main damage gimmick is that its evasion leaves a shadow clone behind that you can then detonate for a huge amount of damage. Really fun. But
That is cool. I didn't think with those at all. Do you think like Archer was easier or harder than like the melee class?
it's tough to say. A lot of people complain about the Archer just because you have a limited ammo amount and then it has to regenerate.
Okay.
And you have to actually land those hits, obviously, which they're like 8 directional aiming, and they're not homing at all. So I think what happens is a lot of people are really sloppy because the enemies are pretty evasive, and they fire off their arrows and then they just don't have any way to deal damage except for doing the stupid little throw your bow out thing.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, like the Archer's unusable. I didn't find the Archer unusable at all. I found that if you play it well, it has really high burst damage because you can snipe things from like mid-range really easily with your arrows pretty reliably if you know how enemies move, and then you can get all your arrows back before the next enemy shows up. It's a little less powerful in bosses, I think.
Right. Looks
But-
fun.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. I had a lot of fun with it. Its evasion sucks. It's this little backdash that counterattacks if an enemy's hitbox hits the area that you were in before you backdashed. But the problem is it doesn't do anything except waste stamina if no attack hits that spot.
Right.
And you don't have iframes. So so you can't actually like
Yeah.
backdash through anything, or you have to you have to plan out the backdash counter with more thought and positioning than just attacking. So it is completely useless as a like as a panic button compared
Yeah.
to like the shield or dodge roll for scout, for example, or the teleport for caster.
Word. One thing I'll say, just looking at the UI, it's reminding me is that I remember the loot kind of being shit because
Yeah.
you get so many sub weapons that you're not going to use.
Well, the main problem with the loot, I think, is just that the equipment, the numbers that the equipment give you are pretty petty, and it doesn't feel like there's much difference between most of the equipment that you get.
Yeah.
Um, and then, you've got a limited number of slots anyway. And then, like, a lot of the rewards for exploration, like optional exploration, are just like sub weapons that you're never going to use really, or
The sub weapon system was so like shitty because you're so limited in how many you can use, like between checkpoints,
yeah,
or actually you still have to pay to recharge them. Even they don't even like instantly recharge at checkpoints.
no,
Like it's really hard to charge that shit. And the game early on programs you to expect you'll need bombs to blow open like secret passages.
yeah,
So you just want to save your bombs for that shit. You never want to use them for anything else.
yeah, and then it winds up not being that important. Well, the way they tried to balance it, I think, is that enemies, if you're completely out of sub weapon ammo, they will drop sub weapon ammo. It's a little bit of a what do you call it, smart drop system.
Mm,
But like you said, the first thing you use sub weapons for is blowing open secret passages, and you need to blow open a lot of them in the first dungeon that you start the game
yeah,
in order to make progress. So you're trained to always want to keep like at least a bomb on hand. And the problem with that is the smart drop system doesn't kick in then. So
right.
I expect a lot of people probably just never found out that the enemies will drop shards if you're out, so that you can get back up.
Do they only drop you enough to get one sub weapon and then quit dropping?
It's similar to that. Some enemies drop them constantly. Like
Yeah,
there's the variant spiders in the spider caves that always drop some shards. But yeah, for the most part, it's just drops to get you back up to like one bomb.
right. And then it's like you can pay to upgrade your sub weapons,
Yeah,
but that makes them cost more. So like
yeah.
it takes more shards to even use one anyway. I don't know. It's
Well, and
not a very good system.
they never get very strong. Like
Right.
it would be different if you could be like, oh, I love this sub weapon. I want to make it like so that I can like use it for a boss. But
Yep.
you, I think the most you can ever do to a boss with just sub weapons, because of the way the ammo works, is like maybe a quarter of their health bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, which and you probably could have spent that time just attacking.
Yeah.
But speaking of the bosses are probably the high point. Besides the really big dungeons, the boss fights were awesome, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
The and there's a lot of them, and there's even some that are like reskins, like all of the scorpions in the desert temple. Uh, but they were all awesome.
Yeah.
I know some
No,
people.
those were a lot of fun.
I know some people were complaining that there's like platforming in the middle of the boss fights, but I think that was like awesome. I thought that was a really cool way to uh, make you really struggle with positioning and stuff, because the bosses are usually huge.
That's right. Some of the ones would have like yeah, like some Mega Man type shit where you have like moving walls coming at you.
Yeah,
You have to like jump up and yeah, no, they did a good job designing the bosses and keeping them a little more interesting than just dodge the attack, get your licks in, type shit.
Well, and they also made you like do the elemental dance, swapping your elements around in the middle of the boss fight a lot.
That's right. I forgot about the element thing. Shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The element thing is, it's not as important just in the overall moving around the world and even exploring the dungeons. Like, you mostly swap to them for puzzle stuff, and then a lot of the enemies have a weakness or resistance, but you basically just stay in the one that is most effective for the area you're in.
Right.
But the boss fights really force you to interact with that and to get good at quick swapping.
Did you 100%? I'm guessing not, since you said you had to rush through it.
I did get most of the collection, I think, on my first file. I finished the game a couple days before the patch came in, so
Yeah.
I wound up doing a little cleanup afterwards, and I got most of the important stuff. I'm trying to think of like what I left behind. I think I left some of the racing stuff behind. Or no,
Oh yeah.
I
I didn't.
finished it all because you get the sub weapon from him. So I did do all
Oh
that.
great, a soap weapon reward.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't do all the races. I didn't. Wasn't good at them. Didn't really enjoy them, so I didn't really do those.
yeah, they're not really worth it, obviously. Uh, but yeah, I got most of it. Some of the rewards are just kind of crap, but
Yeah. Did you find all the hidden rooms? There's an
mm,
achievement for that, and that I'm looking at. I did not get it, so.
I don't think so. Hang on, let me look at what I sold. Soldiers.
I'm just curious because it's a big game and long too. So like, it's one of those that's it'd be
I got
pretty
50
pretty
hidden
daunting to
rooms.
try and do everything.
I did not find all the hidden rooms.
Okay, yeah.
I did not unlock all skills. I did not complete all side quests. I did not upgrade my weapon or my protection to the highest level. I did not collect all dark crystals. I did not collect all secondary. That's shocking. I thought I did do that. And I did not defeat 50 enemies using secondary weapons, which is a pretty low number.
That is a really low number and shows how shitty that system is.
Yeah. What did you think of the story?
I mean, I thought it was for a Metroidvania game.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting anything, so I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
I like the whole like Valkyrie profile type thing where it's you die and then you're summoned to this world, and everyone there is a bunch of dead soldiers or whatever,
Yeah.
soldiers, and
It feels like
yeah, so,
it feels like they kind of I don't know, wrote the story in several stages and kind of forgot their own story at certain points, because there's like a whole thing where you guys are not actually dead soldiers. Like, you and the other soldiers are not actually dead. You guys like warped to Valhalla magically while still alive or something.
are you sure? Is that true?
I think
Because isn't
so.
isn't the whole ending that you get to like go back to like where you were dying in a tunnel or whatever, dying in a cave in or something, and get free? Fuck, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I feel like there's a couple points where somebody is like, oh, we're different. Like, we're all dying here because we're not actually dead soldiers or something.
Well, shit. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's a confusing
It's it's
plot.
it's got a decent vibe though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I like the hub town. I think the hub town in particular has a really good like music theme,
Mm-hmm.
which goes a long way for me. Like it's got a very cozy
One
cozy
pro-
town theme.
one problem I had with the town that got patched eventually, thankfully, was one of the sound effects in town, I think it's like the blacksmith hitting the anvil, or maybe like some crowd noises. It was not actually tied to your global volume setting. So if you turn the volume down for whatever reason and then walk through town, there would be just one noise that would blow out your headphones or speakers or whatever.
That's funny.
There were a lot of really just kind of lazy bugs at release. I don't know how much of that you encountered, but there was like a lot of collision problems, some stuff that would soft lock me in cutscenes.
I don't think I had any of those.
Yeah, and that is one of the biggest problems with the nerf patch, is that like as much as I want to go get like an install for the pre-patch version of the game, they did actually patch all of those like huge game-breaking bugs.
Right.
And so, but it's tied in with also the game's easier now.
Would you be able to pinpoint exactly what the difference is between like, release warrior mode and like their supposed, this is just like the old difficulty, like what the differences are?
I probably would not at this point because it's been
Yeah.
so long. And I don't think they had very good patch notes on it either.
They didn't, because I remember reading those to try to like.
I do know some specific things that changed that were pretty major changes, and then some other ones that I think a lot of people wouldn't notice, but I definitely did when I went back through. One of the biggest changes is the Pyramid Temple, the Pyramid Dungeon. At release, the big gimmick of it was that when you went in, you got sealed in, like magically sealed in. You couldn't warp out.
That's right.
And so you were like trapped in there and forced to go through the entire dungeon in order to escape. And like really the only thing that cut you off from was, a few collectibles that you could potentially have gotten exploring other areas before going in. And
Yeah, I was gonna say at that point in the game, it's not like you could even go that many other places anyway. So
yeah, and then the only big thing I think you could do really was upgrade your weapon to do a little more damage. But the game is pretty hard, and I can see like, people being mad that they go into this super long, tough dungeon and they're like, oh, I could have had like a little bit of an edge on these bosses if I hadn't gone in here initially. But the thing is, the real solution to that is to put some way to upgrade your weapon in the pyramid. Just have one of the other guys that's like trapped in there be like, oh, luckily I brought my smithing set, wink wink.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah, and the solution they went with, because they had a knee-jerk response to criticism, was to completely remove the main gimmick of that dungeon.
Huh.
And that feels like pretty much how they handled almost all of their criticism, was just go for the most obvious cutting off the limb entirely. Let's see, what were we talking before I started getting mad? The other differences from the patch. I noticed going through the spider cave like immediately on hard is that things just dropped more health in general. The little green orb health pickups were super rare. If it was on release, it was a lot more like a Monster or a Wonder Boy game where like health drops, like actual health drops, are extremely rare, and going through an area is a little bit more like you have a little more attrition that you have to deal with.
Right.
Whereas now it feels like almost every enemy drops at least a little health. So as long as you keep killing stuff, you'll keep, getting topped off, and you can take a couple hits. Which is fine for normal, but I was playing on hard at that point.
Yeah. The tough thing with like low drop rate on health items is if you're really hurting, like I feel like you would just find like a room entrance that has some enemies you can handle, and then just keep repeating the fight over and over again until you get what you need.
Uh,
Which that's kind of shitty too. So
I don't know. I liked the way that it had the elixirs again, like Wonder Boy, that you could use, but they were expensive, and you didn't want to constantly rely on them
yeah,
until you get near the end of the game and you can't just spam them, and that kind of
yeah,
makes the final boss fights a little easier than they should be.
yeah. That's true. I feel like I was never using any of the other potions really either, other
Yeah,
than the health elixir.
yeah. That well, the problem is the like the attack damage buff is just too short a duration, and
Yeah,
I don't even remember what the other one is. It's like a healing, like getting rid of debuffs or something.
it's kind of awkward trying to flip through your potions in the middle of a fight too.
Yeah, yeah. I never wound up using them that much. It was pretty much just the healing potions and then the full heal thing. Oh, that's right. There
Yeah,
was one for your mana or whatever,
right.
which whatever you get that back from hitting stuff, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I played through the majority of the game post patch, and fair enough, they overdid it, but I would say like it's still far from like a toothless game now too.
Oh yeah, I don't want anyone to get me wrong and think that they like completely ruined the game. They definitely didn't. Like it's still a great game. It's just really irritating that it's been kind of blemished, and it really didn't save their review score that much. I don't think.
Did it not? Ooh,
Uh,
I'm gonna
let
go
me.
look and see.
I'm gonna look too.
Because I'm pretty sure whenever I got it, okay, so yeah, they
Yeah,
still got mixed all reviews, which is what it was whenever I got it.
yeah,
But the recents are very positive, which there aren't that many.
yeah.
That's a shame.
Well, I mean, what obviously happened is that the people who review bombed it for being too hard never went back to it,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
probably were never going to, no matter what.
That's sad.
Yeah. Well, so that's the main thing I wanted to bring up was because this is going to be directly compared, I think, to Phoenotopia. Did you play Phoenotopia?
I played it a little bit right after finishing Soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
so at that point I was like, I guess a little burnt out on Metroidvanias.
Right.
But I liked what I played. I could tell it was good. I'll just have to go back to it at some point.
So the main reason I brought that up is Phoenotopia also is a very difficult game with like, long haul dungeons and segments and a good level of difficulty. Less action
Mm,
heavy, I think, than this, but uh like a similar level of game.
Ryan.
But and they also apparently at release had a lot of or like a lot of people saying, "Hey, this is way too hard." And the way Phoenotopia handled it is it didn't have a difficulty system initially, and now it does. And it is 5 toggles that you can freely turn on and off whenever you want that adjust certain aspects of the game. So, like in Phoenotopia, all of your healing items are food, and each one takes a certain amount of time for you to actually eat it real time, like in the game. Uh, but if you turn that off, which is one of the difficulty toggles, you can just go into your menu and consume them while time is paused. So if people are like, "Oh, I hate this mechanic where you have to like stand still and eat, a potato in the middle of a boss fight and get hit," because I haven't planned it out very well. then you can just use them like, in menu healing from any other Metroidvania style game.
But is that something you have to actually toggle, or it's just you can use items from the menu like out of the box as is?
It depends on how you set the difficulty when you start the game, but you can always change it.
Shit, that's gonna bug me. I can't remember what I picked, or if there even were options whenever I played it. Oh well.
Well, the way it's kind of weird when it starts, because when it starts, it's just like 5 different difficulties, and each higher difficulty removes one of the toggles, basically, to make it.
Okay.
So if you're playing it on difficulty 5, you're playing it as the game released.
Gotcha.
And then like each lower tier removes one of the or adds one of the little training wheels, basically.
Okay, I just loaded my game, and apparently I'm on difficulty 4. So.
Okay, I think that's the one. I think that's the one where the only difference is you can use healing items from the inventory.
Yep, apparently.
Yeah, but you can toggle them individually once you're in the game.
Right.
And I think that's just a much better way of handling that kind of criticism, rather than, say, if Phoenotopia had gone, the developers of Phoenotopia had gone in and like, lowered the health of a bunch of enemies and put more warp points everywhere and had enemies like drop more healing items.
Yeah.
And then like lost track of what they had actually done, which seems to be what happened with soldiers. Because it should be completely trivial to have a difficulty setting where it literally just undoes all of the difficulty changes. And they seem to not be capable of that. Which, the only other developer I can think of something like that happening was Cleve Blakemore with Grimoire, because he programmed the game over the course of like 30 years. So he had no notes for it, so he literally can't remember how some of the systems work.
Did you finish Grimoire? What was the ultimate verdict on that?
Grimoire is awesome. I'm trying to find the correct way to put this. It's like the ultimate dungeon crawler that you never knew you didn't actually want to play. It's very much like the ultimate, early 90s DOS RPG, with all of the problems that come from that and no way to like fix it. A paragon of its genre. Yeah, exactly. It's extremely brutal in certain ways that it absolutely shouldn't be, that are kind of true to its inspirations. Like there's an enemy type that I think it's just like a mosquito that shows up, and it can show up in like packs of like 9, and every single one of them has a chance to insta-kill anything they hit on attack.
Oof, yeah, that's...
And it's not...
no way to resist it?
No. I mean, I think there is death resistance, but you don't have it at that point in the game. Because they show up pretty early. And it's just like a random common enemy type. It's not like... And so it feels a lot like how in like the first Final Fantasy game, there are all the enemies that like will poison you and there's nothing you can do about it, and just hope that they don't show up when you go through this area.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like that, but with instant death.
Did you play, not to just get on blobbers, but I saw, like, I think it was Happel. He was talking about how good Chaos Strikes Back was, apparently.
Yeah,
is that one you played?
He's always talking about that. No, I never played Chaos Strikes Back. I only ever played the base games of the Dungeon Master games.
Oh, okay.
Chaos Strikes Back is basically a ROM hack of Dungeon Master. there were a lot of games like that uh, like they got an expansion or something, and it was basically just the hardest version of everything in those games. The one I always think of is the Castles of Dr. Creep, which had I think it was by the same developers, a like expansion disc that was just completely obnoxious shit, where there were like invisible platforms everywhere, invisible switches, just things
Right.
you'd never be able to deal with.
I'm fascinated with those kind of games because I didn't play them growing up. Like I didn't have a computer
Hmm.
when I was a kid, so I never really got into them. But I find them really interesting. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I like reading about them and seeing them.
you might be able to get into that. Have you played Grimrock?
Yeah, I played a little bit of Grimrock, but I didn't finish it. After I saw how high you ranked a mod for two, I was like, oh, I need to go back to that.
Grimrock 2 is excellent. Grimrock 1's cool, but
Yeah.
it's obviously pretty crude in comparison to the sequel. Uh, it it just has some flaws in the way they had like the skill system and stuff.
Mm.
But I think the sequel really blows it out of the water, and just is an all around great game. The mod is
You think
mostly ranked that high because it doesn't change the base game that much.
you think it's worth just dumping one and going straight to two then?
It might be. I bounced off of one initially and
Yeah.
only finished it after beating two and being like, oh, I really need to, see the full game. The one thing
Mm.
I will say about one over two is that the final boss in one is way cooler and a better use of the gimmick. Uh,
Okay.
Two is mostly just a straightforward boss fight for both of the end boss things.
Right.
But yeah, I would say picking up two is definitely worth it, if only because there's such a wealth of like user made content for it now too, that
Mm.
is actually really high quality, and pretty long. The two that I just finished are about as long as the full game, and me and Halfle were both playing through the trilogy of super long mods for two.
Are they by the same author?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Same
wow.
guy. Same guy is just now finished the third game in this trilogy of. I think it's like the Living Rock trilogy. Uh,
So they're all like standalone storylines and shit, just using the same engine basically.
it's all standalone storylines, but kind of in the same universe,
Right.
not on the same planets. But obviously, since so many of the assets are reused, he's kind of tied that in. So like one of the big things in Grimrock 2 is there are these stone heads that show up that basically give you hints or like riddles. And in the Living Rock series, they're kind of like AIs that are positioned and used to support like interdimensional guardians that get teleported to a world to help maintain balance there. So you'll see them in a completely different context in all three games, but mostly in the context of like being in a supportive role to you and your party.
Mm.
And that's a different context than they are like in the base game, where they're just like stoneheads that are there to give you hints.
Yeah. That's cool. So where do you think you're gonna rank soldiers then?
Well, Phoenotopia is definitely way better, and like I said, I I I think they just handled the criticism a lot better, and it really shows like a lack of confidence in the developer.
Mm.
The way they handled people saying the game was too hard, when they should have known just how hard the game was when they were making it. It's not something where it feels like they didn't play test it.
Right.
Like nothing about it is like completely busted or anything.
I wonder if they were pressured by the publisher
They
because
might.
they had a separate publisher, and
Yeah,
I bet Phoenotopia might not have.
maybe, maybe, but you know, that's still something that you could have
Sure,
handled
sure.
it better. And also, just in general, I think Phoenotopia has got stronger stories, stronger characters, stronger writing, and so
Mm.
even if the action's a little less exciting, um,
Mm-hmm.
and the animations and art is a little weaker, I think that definitely
Just
puts it above.
just a little.
Well, I mean, I'm not the biggest Metal Slug fan in the world,
Oh, okay.
but it's good. It's good. It's just also Phoenotopia never soft locked me in a cutscene like is happening in that clip.
Huh. No, Phoenotopia did seem good. I'm
Yeah,
gonna mark it as something I need to get back to soon.
I definitely recommend it. I'm gonna keep Grimrock higher too. I think Unsold is probably the biggest direct competition I think for soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
because Unsold definitely has some flaws and bugs, but and it might have a difficulty problem, but I don't know because nobody played it besides me.
What Unsold?
Yeah,
I read reviews about it, and yeah, it's a lot of people being like, "Oh, it's just not fun because you gotta fucking try so hard in every fight." But
it is awesome. It's a
yeah,
really really cool game. I definitely highly recommend it. I want to put Unsold above Soldiers just because it seems to be like mostly a one man thing that uh,
mm,
has really stuck to its guns. Uh,
yeah,
like I'm really excited to see what both developers come out with next. But I think I'm more excited for Unsold, like whether it's Unsold 2 or whatever else they make. Bionic Commando Rearmed is just kind of tough to get back to. And it's definitely better or best your first time through. Whereas I do think Soldiers is pretty replayable.
yeah. I mean, having the multiple classes definitely gives it a leg up there. Rearmed is sick though. I mean, I haven't played it since it came out like years ago, but I remember being really impressed by it.
Well, one interesting thing with Rearmed is the way its difficulty works, where enemies start shooting you from like different angles on hard, whereas on normal they only shoot like directly at you, like horizontally, so that you can really easily block them or duck under the shots.
Yeah.
Um, are you leaving? I guess so. Uh, yeah, Rearmed was great. I think it's still a little difficult to run now, though. I know I had a little bit of a problem with it. I think I had to like roll back my physics driver or something to get it to run. I'd probably just emulate Rearmed slash 2. I never played 2. I was.
Dude, two stinks from what I remember.
Well, here's the thing that I always remember with 2 is they put. Capcom put a guy in charge of 2, and it turned out to have been the guy who was the lead dev for Bionic Commando, the 3D game.
Right. Yep.
And I read an interview before the game came out where he was talking to somebody, and in the interview, he was so stupid that it absolutely blew me away. He was talking about how one of the first things they changed when he got put on the project was they added a jump button because,
Ah, that's
duh,
right.
it's a
That's
platformer.
right.
And I read that and I was like, is this guy joking? And then I keep reading into it. One of my favorite comments from him is whoever's interviewing him, like to their credit, goes like, so you were originally the dev or like lead dev or some high position in Bionic Commando, which it was a flop. Why do you think that Bionic Commando Rearmed, which was like this thing that Capcom like let some people have some fun with and throw together a remake of the first game?
Yeah.
Why do you think that was so much more successful, critically and for popularity? And he just straight up goes, "Oh, I have no idea." Really, dog? You can't even rack your brain a little bit to think of why that would be more popular, why people thought that was more fun than the shitty 3D game about the dead wife's body being turned into a bionic arm.
That's so baffling. Like, why would you you had like a sleeper success with the original Rearmed. Why would you give a sequel to somebody else? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Capcom,
Much less the guy that just made a bomb for you. Like, what the fuck?
Capcom literally hates success. They keep
Yeah.
accidentally finding success, and they're always baffled by it. Like, they keep having great things happen, and then they go, "What the fuck? We didn't want this."
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not nearly as bad as Konami, but
Konami don't do shit, and I'm not like enthused about them getting back into games. I feel like it's Konami, like just the worst shit.
well, they did have one good game recently.
What?
Oh, you really don't know?
I didn't think they made a real game. I thought like the Syokoden remaster was the first like game they've been doing anything with outside of Pachinko in a while.
Getsu Fumaden. Undying
Oh
Metal.
yeah, that's right.
If you like Dead Cells, it's like a pretty solid Dead Cells knockoff. Cool art, really cool, sort of like a Gradius upgrade mechanic.
Doesn't it have some phone game bullshit going on with it though?
No, I mean
It doesn't?
not that I know of.
Okay.
Always online DRM. I think that's
Yeah.
that's the only like thing that people are like slamming it for.
Mm.
Some people are saying it's like Dead Cells but underwater. I don't think that's fair. I think it's got pretty fun weapons. Yeah, it's not a great game, but it's a good game made by Konami.
Right. Yeah,
Which
fair
is
enough.
shocking. Also shocking that they remembered they had the license for Getsu Fumaden.
Yeah.
Alright, Bionic Commando Rearmed. What do you think? Soldiers better than that?
I mean, I haven't played Rearmed in like fucking, well over a decade now, so it's hard for me to say.
It's
I
probably
liked it a
hard
lot
for
at
you
the
to
time.
run.
Yeah, overall.
I had to roll back, I think, the physics drivers in order, like manually, in order to get it to run.
Yeah, I played it on 360, so like I don't.
Oh, that's right. That was one of those early
It was, yeah.
Xbox Live Arcade games.
Yep.
What
So
an
I
era.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess just by fact of Rearm being a remake, I
Yeah.
would probably give the nod to Soldiers. But
Yeah.
I could see it either way.
I think I will put it above Rearmed. Because as much as I complained about it, it was a blast going through, and I think it would still be a blast going through now. And probably has some longevity over Rearmed, where Rearmed, like, once you've beaten the game on hard, the only thing you can do is do the stupid virtual missions. that are
Yeah.
just like obnoxious platforming.
It's probably Rearm is probably easier to replay because it's so short though.
That's true.
Like Soldiers, like yeah, it's cool you can play it if you go over classes, but you're still looking at like a a 20-hour run through or
Yeah.
thereabouts. So
Yeah, I mean, depending on how much optional stuff you do.
right,
Well,
but it's not a bad thing. I mean, shit, it's a long game. It's got a lot of content.
yeah, yeah, and it's got a fairly level quality. Also, like it doesn't take a big dip at any point. I don't think.
Yeah, there's no real low points. Like even this, like I said earlier, the sewer dungeon, which you like would think is gonna suck ass. Like it's honestly well done.
Yeah, yeah, that was a lot of fun with like the labs and stuff underwater.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that was cool. All right, Soldiers is ranked. Sorry this took so long. I've been kind of
No, it's
busy.
all good.
Is there anything left that you played? Crypt of the Necrodancer, Scorn, Madcap Mosaic, Pentiment, Road Warden?
I have only played a couple hours of Road Warden, but I really liked it. Would have played. I only played about 30 minutes of Pentiment, but I fucking hated it. Um, so I'm probably not the best guy to talk to for either of those.
Well, you're not the best, but you're what I got. If you've got a little bit of time, do you want to do Road Warden?
Sure.
Don't sigh. Don't sigh. I gotta get this done, man. It's already 2023. I was mostly holding on to these because I thought somebody would actually want to discuss them. So, how far have you gotten in this?
Road Warden?
Yeah.
Let me see here. I had found a couple villages. I was somewhere in the far west, like maybe the necromancer place, I think.
White Marshes.
White marshes, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, literally just a couple hours in.
Oh,
But
what character did you start as?
God, whatever the most bland one was,
Warrior.
warrior, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it made it apparent like well, for one, the caster, I didn't want to try fucking with that until I understood the mechanics well enough. And the other one was like the scholar that I think the game even tells you like because they know so much lore, it's better to play it like not first. So
Oh, really?
I think it says something like that.
Huh. I started as the scholar, so maybe
Oh, did you?
maybe I got too much information.
Yeah.
But I thought it was excellent. The writing, I think, is really good. Were there any parts of it where you felt like the writing wasn't good, or?
Other than like if typos missed. No, I thought it worked well. Like maybe it's not like if we're comparing it to like Disco Elysium or something, it's not like the eloquence of the writing isn't gonna like blow your mind, but it works. It's got a cool universe. It doesn't try to get too cute. It's not like no one's talking like a Whedon character.
Mhm.
So it's good shit.
I felt, and this is probably just because I went through the entire game. I felt like in general the writing, is a little more straight laced
Yeah.
than Disco Elysium, but I also thought it was better written than Disco Elysium because Disco Elysium kind of crawls up its own ass a lot of times and doesn't really move anything forward.
Yeah, that's fair.
Whereas this, like, almost everything that gets presented to you is worth reading because it actually is conveying something.
Right.
I can't really ask you about like how the whole ending sequence went for you, obviously, but
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting balance as far as like being a visual novel and also being like a time management RPG in a way that again Disco Elysium really wasn't once you actually started getting into it.
Right.
Like all
How
of the...
tight
Yeah.
How tight did the time management end up being on this? Like,
Well, I'm a god gamer, so I had like 10 days left when I had basically finished everything.
damn.
So I was able to kind of like casually roll around and tie up some loose ends and then leave.
Okay.
But I was only playing it on normal, so I had 40 days as opposed to 30, which is what the hard time limit is.
Yeah.
So
I guess that's one thing. One thing is like a game like this where it's like you really want to like go crazy exploring and like it. So the time management, like I respect it. It creates an important part of the game, but it can kind of like I don't know take some of the fun out of it. I
stress you
guess.
out.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I found was that like starting out, I was like always a little upset that I wasn't able to do something my first time encountering it. Like I wasn't able to like completely clear every encounter. Like I had to bail on things and leave people hanging and just kind of like keep moving in order to like get back someplace for night, or because I didn't have enough health or whatever left.
Yeah.
But I think that winds up uh, paying off, really. uh, you do kind of constantly stay on the move, you're constantly doing new things, and even once you've like fully explored, there's more stuff for you to do.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm totally down with like you coming across places where you can't have a build that can do everything. So it's shit you're just not gonna be able to do.
Yeah.
That's totally cool to me. I think just the idea of a long, story-heavy game where there's even the possibility that I could run out of time and have a hard game like bad ending / game over after a dozen hours. That can kind of like, fuck. I gotta be in the mood to really
Well,
sink my teeth into that.
one thing I think Road Warden did that was really cool is you can just leave. Um, you don't have to do the quote unquote main quest, or really do like accomplish much of anything. You can leave, and it's not so much that you get a bad ending. It's just you get you get back to the towns and you tell them what you managed, and they're like, okay. And it affects certain things in the epilogue or whatever.
That's cool.
But yeah, the whole time limit thing is basically just like it's there so that you can't just like sit there for like a month just grinding up money and doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I wound up really appreciating the time limit, and also like the season change, because the whole point of the time limit is you're getting there as the season's waning down.
Right. What do you know how long you played it? Like, what was your, how many hours did it take for you to beat it? Just out of curiosity.
I think it was around 20. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Oh
cool. And like
no,
for
no,
a,
it's way less.
oh, okay.
It must have been more like 12 hours because I put a little time into another playthrough.
Yeah. No, I think the visual style is really cool. I like the maps of
Yeah,
each area that you pull up. It looks nice.
I like
Um,
I like the way it reveals parts
yeah,
of
yeah,
the maps as you explore those areas sometimes.
yeah.
Mhm.
How do you feel like all the, combat and rations and whatever, resources, how do you feel like all those mechanics ended up working in the long run?
Um, they were passable. Like
Yeah,
it's really just a thing to make it so that you don't just solve any encounters. Like almost everything you do has some kind of cost benefit to it. And the resources that you have, like your health, your food, your rations.
Your
They're all,
soap.
yeah, your soap. They're all things that basically you spend in order to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have just done it sort of like a game book style where you have these 5 choices during an encounter, and one of them's the correct choice, and these other ones are like incorrect choices and like drain something. And instead of that, it feels more like you commit to a certain choice, and maybe you give up some rations or something. But it doesn't feel like you've lost.
Right. Okay.
I really like the you can see my achievements on the top left and the bottom left. Those are just for like major events in your expedition that the game keeps track of, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then as the scholar, like doing the alchemy was pretty fun because you find a couple spots where you can mix together some potions. And like everything else in the game, like it takes some time for you to do it. So you might want to like set a day aside. And then the other thing is some of them involve like irritating ingredients and stuff like that. So like one of them, like you'll make it, and then if you try and make something afterwards, you're like, no, your eyes are still stinging. Like you're not gonna be able to
Huh.
keep grinding away.
Are you gonna play through it again as any of the other choices? Do you think?
I might, yeah. I started one as the warrior just because I wanted to see how people reacted to like you being an asshole to everyone, and I don't think you ever permanently get locked out of anything, but I did get kicked out of like the first inn, and they're like, come back later when you've like cooled down a little bit.
Oh,
Like
nice.
you're not welcome here, and so I had to like go find somewhere else to sleep, which being an asshole, I like rode over to the east and like chopped in the door of the tower and slept in there. And but I think if I was gonna play it again, I would play as the mage just to see how that the Numa mechanic works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked Road Warden. It's tough because I don't really have anything too similar to it. Maybe Signalis on the list. I definitely liked it more than Signalis.
Did you like it more than Pentiment?
Way more. Way more. Yeah, that one. Oof.
The fucking not to start in on Pentiment, but the fucking text speed and the writing sounds like god damn, that shit got annoying instantly to me.
That didn't bother me as much as the writing itself and the scenarios, which all felt. I don't know how to put it. It's all just. It's of a certain style, like a way that people interact. That I know you said. Maybe it wasn't you. Anyway, it feels like a TV show, like a modern TV show.
Yeah.
Where people are like walking up to each other and being like, "Hey, oh, we're good friends. We understand each other, and we're not like immediately antagonistic of each other or whatever." I don't know. It rang false a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And the other problem is that I have actually read Name of the Rose, which I think most of the appeal for the people who like the game, they've only heard of it.
Yeah, it's been like 20 years since I read it, but there was another. I think it was The Abyss, like The Abyss and The Name of the Rose are supposedly the
The
two that it
Abyss.
cribs. Yeah, The Abyss is like this French novel.
Oh, okay.
I haven't read that one, but
I
yeah,
thought you were
it's.
talking about the movie The Abyss.
Oh no, no, it's a
Like,
different one. Yeah,
no, I
it's
never.
about like a The Abyss is a French novel from the 60s, but it's about like a physician slash philosopher during the Renaissance era.
Hmm,
So apparently, like, there's a lot of shit taken from that, but I haven't read it, so I couldn't.
yeah, that makes sense. I've never read it either. Um,
The Road
honest,
Warden, yeah. Where are you gonna put that?
I honestly might put it above Unsold. I really liked it.
Ooh, yeah,
I hadn't played a visual novel or anything like this that I've gotten this into.
yeah.
I think maybe ever, and I think it really pays off with a lot of its stuff in a way that a lot of the mechanics in games like further below it feel kind of superfluous or uh, don't pay off.
Hmm.
Um, I think Legend of Grimrock 2 is just it's more of a actual game, obviously, so it's easier to recommend for that reason. But yeah, I strongly recommend Road Warden. I think it's definitely worth putting that high. So now you go play it. Oh, welcome back.
You know, no, I keep getting issues for whatever reason. I don't know.
It might be on my end. Who knows? But anyway, I was gonna cut you off anyway because we're pretty much done with everything that I think you have anything to
Okay.
add. Um, unless you played through Arkelos.
Uh, no, I think that was another one I played a bit of and didn't finish.
The Gothic 2 mod.
Wait, oh no, I'm thinking of something else. No, I definitely have not played Arclos.
No, that's too bad. I'll have to get somebody in for that.
Word.
Everyone wants to talk about that. All right. Well, thank you for coming.
Yep. Good list, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, go play Road Warden.
Yeah. And Phonotopia.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Hi, man.
Later.
Later.
Arca losers. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty competitive top of the list this year. I'm feeling kind of bad for like Sakuna and Northern Journey, but they should have been a little better. Well, I'm gonna go. Thank you guys for watching, and thanks again to TT's Up. Stiff competition for that #1 spot. The most important #1 this year. Alright, later.